No, but for real. This video is a bit of a spin-off of this video where I went into Arcane blind and I loved it. Now I'm doing a reverse, and I'm telling you 10 reasons why Dota Dragon's Blood is very much worth your attention as the new season is coming out. Sometimes I will reference Arcane, but you don't need to have seen either to enjoy this video. If you don't know Dragon's Blood, it's an animated show on Netflix based on a popular video game called Dota 2, which is a direct competitor of another game called League of Legends, which is what Arcane was based on. Hence the comparison. At number 10, I'm going to start with some technicalities and then raise the stakes as we go and reveal the biggest selling points, in my opinion, towards the end. You will not believe number 7. Number 10. You can watch the entire thing in less than 4 hours. Okay, look, I'm not gonna lie, this is also a drawback in some ways, as the show is great, and I'd love if it lasted more. But it also creates some problems with some characters turn into two-dimensional plot devices. But you can literally sit down with a 3-course meal on a Sunday and still be on dessert by the time book 1 ends. And it's not half-assed either, you'll get a complete narrative arc with light moments and deep conversations and dramatic fights, and you'll also get one of the best fallen hero stories with a great setup for the next book. But you might be wondering why I'm saying books instead of seasons, and that leads me to number 9. Studio Mir is a South Korean animation studio, and this is a callback to one of their other shows, The Legend of Korra. And if you really want to stretch it, even Avatar: The Last Airbender, which the co-founder of Studio Mir worked on as well. And even if you don't like The Legend of Korra, you can't deny that the scope and quality of that series was outstanding and captivating in its own right, and you can see some of that trademark animation here as well.
Oh! Ah! Insulting me now, eh?
Studio Mir is also responsible for the excellent feature-length animated dark fantasy film The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf, which shares somewhat of a common DNA with this show. Both are fantasy epics, even though Dota got a supposedly way smaller budget. Speaking of common DNA, Nightmare of the Wolf features the amazing Lara Pulver, who is also in Dragon's Blood. And this takes us to our next point. Number 8. The voice acting and dialogue in Dragon's Blood is exceptional. If you know me, anything voiced by Tony Todd is automatically a favorite, as he voices many heroes in the video game as well. There's a special nod here to Dota players that in-game Devion's original voice is also Tony Todd, who voices Slyrak in Dragon's Blood and who then merges with Devion in episode 1, so yeah, that's a really nice touch. Troy Baker absolutely hits it out of the park as the voice of Invoker. Lara Pulver's delivery on some of these lines just makes the comedy 10 times better.
Hunting ground. No way around it.
Why are you smiling?
And I actually can't find Marcy's voice anywhere online, but mwah. Anyways, without going on a long list of names, everyone else is perfect for their role. But I think that's nothing without the great dialogue. There's a lot of good writing in Dragon's Blood, but I think ultimately the witty and solid dialogue is what carries it. Be it the one-liners,
Princess? I think he means you.
or stuff like this.
The brightest lights cast the darkest shadows.
Number 7. You can go in blind. Many in the comments section of my Arcane video said they would have loved to go in without knowing the characters' fates, episodes, or even seasons in advance. And to them I'd say, here's your chance. The lore of Dota would be way too long to explain here. It's basically multiverses and time knots and a war of ancient forces, with every game of Dota being a canonical part of the history of the world. But hey, you're not here for that. Just cherish the fact that you don't know Devion and Slyrak's fate. You don't know if Mirana will return to the Night Silver Woods. You don't know how Luna will turn out to be. And of course, there's stuff that surprised us Dota players too, but to you, it will all be new. Number 6. The tone and pacing is very different from Arcane, and we enjoyed Arcane. It was zero downtime, full throttle narrative progress, even in the quieter moments. But Dragon's Blood is built different. I personally missed a lot of world building from Arcane in the form of conversations or depiction of the everyday lives of Piltover citizens, for example. Dragon's Blood is a much shorter show, but it still manages to show you how people live in this world, what species of dragons there are, and how to fight them, and even small stuff like how town portal scrolls work. There's more room to breathe for the characters, and it's generally just easier to take in, I think. Sometimes it's genuinely funny, more lighthearted, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. Except for when it does occasionally. But I mean, I think I only laughed like once or twice on Arcane, and I love drama as much as the next guy. But it was nice that Dragon's Blood was a bit more casual. Also, just so you know, this show is a bit more naturalistic despite its fantastical context. Gore, substance abuse, and sex are more present here.
Well, yeah, he's Davion, the dragon knight what killed a dragon. This dragon.
Oh, you can't say that.
Why not?
I like it a lot, but you might not. Number 5. Dragons. Look, I actually don't like dragons in most things. They're so overly used and admired, and I just never saw the greatness of them. I probably still don't. I was extremely skeptical with a show called Dragon's Blood for this reason. But I love these dragons. For once, I feel like they kinda nailed the careful balance between beast and intelligent creature, and they outsourced the beast qualities to normal dragons and gave all the intelligence to eldworms, who are the pillars of creation in the world of Dota. They are frightening but extremely wise, and they live in this different realm while their physical bodies sleep deep underground in lairs humans cannot find. Good stuff. Number 4. Interesting subtext of religion. If you're into that kind of stuff, I actually really recommend paying close attention to Invoker's subplot. Without giving spoilers, I can only say some people entirely missed something in the show that provides this religious commentary that I find very interesting. Thinking about Mene and the prophecy and gods in general in Dota's world is really interesting to me, and I also think it answered some questions us Dota people had about the lore. Number 3. A rich world to explore and a complex plot. It should come as no surprise, but Dota has a ton of weird, interesting creatures, magic, politics, and ancient history, and while we only see a glimpse of this, I just want to assure you, your investment in this world will not be in vain. That is if they stick to this project and they don't kill it after book 2. Also, the plot thickens. For example, you newcomers will completely brush off a scene that is basically the beginning of the entire story of Dota, so the complexity will be way more present in later seasons. There's easily like 10 books they could fill with this. And this ties into number 2, untapped potential. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we talked about how shows like Arcane, for example, are sometimes too good for their own sake. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad something is great if it is. I'm just very afraid for the people who made that show and now have to live up to that impossibly high expectation. 7 years of development, and now the pressure is on them to create something at least as good as Arcane Season 1. But probably something better if they don't want to receive bad press. Shows like The Witcher, on the other hand, started relatively small with a smaller budget, and now that they could show the essence of the Witcher world, which you can totally do without money, they can now scale it up nice and slow, adding budget and increasing the scope, just like Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, and other great shows like them did. Dragon's Blood is the same way, and I can't wait to see what happens when they add more resources and characters into this mix. And now, to the big one. My unquestionably biased number 1 reason you should watch Dota Dragon's Blood. The Invoker.
The Invoker? That's too good. Tell me you're serious.
And don't call me Shirley. It's so hard to talk about him without spoiling, so I'll be brief. The Invoker's story is such an intricate exploration of something I explained in my latest video about fallen heroes. He's arguably morally worse in this story than the actual villain himself, or herself if you will, as he is terrible not by his nature but by his own choice. He's not a beast, not a slave to his instincts. He consciously chooses to be resentful and take revenge, even if he puts his own race at risk, and even if the whole world burns as a consequence. But at the same time, there is such a beautiful, relatable backstory behind him that I think anyone will have a hard time outright hating him, regardless of his vicious actions. This story speaks to me because we've all been a victim of injustice, some smaller, some bigger. But those of us who took this out on others, or historically the world, have truly created hell on earth. It's not a cautionary tale either. It's a grim representation of what happens when resentment destroys the fabric of humanity. The wisest creature in the world has the most dysfunctional mind of all. And that concludes the list. Now, this isn't a critique. I haven't explored a lot of things, good and bad. The point is, for the time investment that it requires, I think it is really quite good and you should give it a shot, especially if you want to learn the right way to go through a dragon's asshole. I'm so excited for book 2 and it comes out in a few days, and who knows, maybe it'll be worth a closer look as well. And League players and Arcane fans, if you do end up watching it, please let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing. And thank you to my top patrons and Berkey for being in the behind the scenes tier. Thank you guys.